Well, now it's time to put some shading and flesh tone onto the face of Winifred Kiek, who was the first woman ordained in Australia, Congregationalist church, and a remarkable woman. We'll hear more about her another time, but just to say a few things about what I'm going to do in this session. About a week ago, at a class that I am part of, one of the iconographers in that class brought along some work she'd been doing, an icon that she'd been painting, and she had done something that I hadn't heard of before, and that was to do the shading, an underpainting shading, in cerulean blue. And so it looked beautiful. It didn't look blue, it looked green, because when you put the yellow on top, the yellow and blue make green. So I've been doing some experimenting, and I've just trying it myself, and in the first instance this was too heavy, and then I watered it down and did that, and I think I'm going to give that a go. So I've applied the cerulean blue, and one of the things I notice is that when I apply it over, even though it's quite dry, over this yellow ochre, it doesn't take as well. This down here is been quite white. Anyway, I've now mixed up some golden ochre and a little bit of terra verte and a little bit of the cerulean blue. This is a very different skin colour, but hey, this is an icon, so let's see what happens. So here's some information about our icon, about Winifred Kiek, and this has been prepared by Julia Pittman. Winifred Kiek was born on the 27th of July 1884 in Chorlton upon Medlock in the county of Lancaster, to the north of Manchester, the second child of John Robert Jackson, a wholesale tea dealer, and Margaret Jane née Harker. The family were Quakers. Elders in her local meeting encouraged Winifred in her ministry. In 1907 she graduated from the Victoria University of Manchester with a Bachelor of Arts degree, won the University Prize in Logic, and worked as a teacher in the mixed department at Manly Park Municipal School. While travelling in the Swiss Alps in 1909, she met Edward Sidney Kiek, born 1883, died 1959, a student for the ministry of the Congregational Church, and after his ordination in 1910, they were married and Winifred became a Congregationalist. Winifred started a family and served as a minister's wife and lay preacher. In 1919, Edward accepted the position of principal of Parkin College, Adelaide, in Australia, it's in South Australia, and Winifred studied theology there. In 1923, she was the first woman in Australia to graduate with a Bachelor of Divinity degree from the Melbourne College of Divinity, my old alma mater. In 1926, the Colonel Light Gardens Congregational Church asked Winifred to fill the vacant pastorate, and on the 13th of June 1927 she was ordained, the first woman minister in a Christian church in Australia and in a denomination of the British Empire. Winifred served as minister of Colonel Light Gardens Congregational Church in 1926 to 1933 and Knoxville Congregational Church in 1938 to 1946. She preached regularly and in other churches and published sermons in the Christian World pulpit. She also published a work of religious and parenting advice entitled Child Nature and Child Nurture, published in 1927. Winifred served her denomination with distinction, twice as vice chairman of the Congregational Union of South Australia, 1944 to 45, and in 1948 to 49. In 1945, as acting chairman. In 1941-46, she was president of the Congregational Women's Association of Australia and New Zealand, and in 1949 she was a member of the International Congregational Council held at Wellesley, Massachusetts, USA. Winifred promoted the ordination of women. She was a member of the International Association of Women Ministers. She was also a leading minister and office bearer in many women's associations, including the Women's Christian Temperance Union and the National Council of Women. In 1935-38, she was president of the Women's Non-Party Association of South Australia. During 1950s, Winifred Kiek served as liaison officer in Australia for the Commission on the Work of Women in the Churches of the World Council of Churches and published We of One House in 1954. In 1963, the state-based women's interchurch councils formed Australian Church Women, and in 1965 awarded the first Winifred Kiek Scholarship, a training program for young women from Africa, Asia and the Pacific Islands in church work and community service. After her husband retired from Parkham College in 1957, Edward and Winifred shared interim pastorates in Queensland and New South Wales. She conducted her final service on the 9th of March 1975. Winifred died at Spindrift, the family holiday home in Victor Harbour, on the 30th of May 1975, aged 90.